95.7 The Game breaking news.
And this is courtesy of Woj. The NBA is suspending Draymond Green indefinitely. Period.
End of tweet?
End of tweet.
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
Not infinitely.
Nope.
But indefinitely,
So,
which means there's no definite end.
There's no number.
There's no number.
There's no number.
Indefinitely.
Essentially.
Pay the under 5 o'clock.
Well, pay the under 5 o'clock and maybe pay the over on the number of games, because what this tells me is that the NBA is so flippin' pissed off that they need more time to figure out exactly what they want to do with Draymond Green going forward. This buys them, I don't know how long. I don't know when the next announcement comes out. The Warriors have a game tomorrow night. Draymond will not be playing in that one, and I don't think he's going to be playing anytime soon. Anybody who thought that this was going to be a game, 4 games, 5 games, when you see the word indefinitely, that tells me he's going to be gone for a while, and then they're going to talk about another while as far as Draymond Green. Again, he's kind of messed with the wrong group. He's done the wrong thing at the wrong time. They tried to send a message to him 4 weeks ago. Their view on this, as far as I'm concerned, is they looked at last night and said, you did not hear our message, so let us give it to you a little bit louder.
Right. And this is as loud as it gets in terms of a number of games. The number of games is, we're going to get back to you. And you mentioned it. He won't play tomorrow at LA. They've got 9 more games this calendar year, including Christmas at Denver, which would be the 7th game on the schedule. So if he gets 7 games, that would include that Denver game. If he gets 10, that would take him through Orlando on January 2nd and Denver's on January 4th indefinitely. I mean, that feels to me, Mark, like more than 10, honestly.
Well, of course it does.
Well, I mean, it's not infinitely, and it's not for the season.
No, but you know who the last person to get suspended indefinitely was? Ja Morant. And I think it's important for people to understand how many times in the last 24 hours people have linked those two names. It does not mean that their acts are the same. It means the league is viewing it the same. This isn't about fairness. This isn't about punching Jusuf Nurkic. This is about an image that the NBA is absolutely not willing to work with. And if that's what they view, that's how they view Ja, and that's how they view Draymond, you're not getting 8 chances. They've sent the message, they've sent it again, and then they sent it very firmly, and they feel like that message is not being received, and they are not messing around. So that's why the odds, when I go back to when we started the show, the odds are what the odds are, and those are not coming out willy-nilly.
And you said the favorite was 21 to 30.
21 to 30 games.
And now we're looking at indefinitely, which definitely feels like more than 10 to me. If you're going to give a guy 10, you give him 10. If you're going to give him 5, you give him 5. If you're not sure, or if you really want to send a message, quote unquote, then you put it at indefinitely and you circle back. I'm looking at the longest suspensions in league history, and I'm looking at Dennis Rodman got 11 games back in 1997 for kicking a courtside cameraman in the groin. You remember that one where he tripped over him and then he hauls off and just kicks the cameraman? He got 11 games for that one. And that felt to me a little bit like this, where the punishment didn't really fit the crime, but it was just another episode in a long series of episodes.
Okay, the news has just come down. The NBA is suspending Draymond Green indefinitely. 888-957-9570. We are here for your reaction on this. I will also add that, and I want to shout out Enrique, who's one of our very, very good listeners on YouTube and is here every day. And he basically said the league is saying, dude, go get therapy. And I think that's another important thing here. When you see this, the league is suspending a player indefinitely. They're not essentially saying, hey, we're mad at you. You messed up. We've decided that this is 3 games worth. Remember what Jusuf Nurkic said last night. Something has happened this year where the league no longer looks at Draymond Green as a guy who's just a live wire. The perception is now out there that this guy needs help. The Warriors even said it last time. We asked Steve. He came on, and he's like, look, he's doing the work, and we're helping him, but I don't want to tell you anything more about what exactly that is. And if that means behind closed doors, he's in anger management classes, therapy, I don't know. And if you start those classes and then the very next night after being reinstated, you get a technical in the third quarter, and 4 weeks later, you're getting suspended for whacking dudes in the head again, you know where this is going to go. This is the NBA essentially coming to Draymond and having a come to Jesus conversation.
Right.
They're grabbing him out of his house and saying, you don't live here anymore. You need to go
get in the van
to rehab.
Right. And
they tried to make him go to rehab, and he said, no. And they have finally said, yes.
Well, now it's, you can do what you want, but you're not going to be playing basketball until we decide that you're going to be playing basketball. And they don't really have to put a number to it. They can make it indefinitely. And the message is now sent to Draymond Green. You're going to play basketball again when we decide that you've done what needs to be done to be able to play in our league. It's a privilege to play in the NBA. So that's where this sits now for Draymond and the Warriors. It's not as easy as, all right, 5 games, a mea culpa, say the rosary twice, and we'll see you back when you have your game after a 5-game sit. This one's going to be a long time.
Along the lines of what we were just saying, this courtesy of Shams just 25 seconds ago. Draymond Green is expected to receive counseling and work with the Warriors and the NBA while suspended after striking Jusuf Nurkic on Tuesday night. He has to meet the criteria before he can return to play. So now this furthers it even more. You're not going to get a number anytime soon. The NBA is so fed up, they're telling him, go away. Go away and prove to us that you can work your way back, and when you do, then we'll discuss when you come back. So this is following. It's a very, very different set of circumstances, but you are following the Ja Morant playbook right now if you're the NBA. And take a look at Ja. Haven't seen him all year. I tell you this, the way this is playing right now on December 13th, I would be surprised. Draymond would be lucky to play in January. Be lucky to play in the entire month of January.
Well, that would be a lot of games.
That's a lot of games.
And if you look at
December is out, brother. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, yeah, I already laid it out that's basically, 7 or 8 more games in December. And I think if we talked about a 10-game suspension, that takes you into early January. If you look at the list of all-time NBA suspensions, and I'm looking at them right now, and the majority of them that have been north of 10 games have been either drugs, recreational drugs, performance-enhancing drugs, the Ja Morant gun, the Kermit Washington punch on Rudy Tomjanovich in 1977. He got 26 games, and or domestic violence. You've never had a player do anything like this and receive a suspension this long.
All right, let's hear from you. 888-957-9570, Willard and Dibs. Draymond Green has been suspended indefinitely by the league. He is expected to receive counseling. The Warriors and the league will work together, and after he meets certain criteria, then they will discuss his potential return. Charlie in Rhode Island on Willard and Dibs. Hi, Charlie. Welcome to the show. What's up?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
We're good.
It's so funny. I had it on my notes, the decision, because I was going to liken Draymond to, that family friend that family you have that lived with you before you start having kids, and they have these wild parties, and you tell them, hey, turn it down. The neighbors are going to be worried, and they refuse to listen to you. But now you begin to have children, and they still have the same wild parties. At what point are you going to be like, okay, enough of this. You have to move on. I think that's the same thing with Draymond right now. Last year, I think Draymond put out a video about Dillon Brooks saying, if you wonder why Memphis wouldn't do okay, look no further than this idiot over here as what he does on there. Now, if I look at Draymond do things these days, I look at, okay, you wonder why the Warriors are not doing so well. Look at what Draymond is doing. Because this team needs you. How is Clay supposed to find his form when you keep doing these things, when the best player that's supposed to give him those, create those chances for him is not even on the court? How are the kids, the young guys supposed to function when they dread you? Did you see the clip of where Kuminga was getting a standing ovation And Draymond got up like trying to cheer him on, and Kuminga nearly flew out of his skin just because he thought maybe Draymond was going to punch him or something.
Yeah.
Even yesterday, even yesterday, after that wild swing, you could see Trez Jackson on the bench, like, with his hands up, like, oh no, like, not again. And the unfortunate thing now is like, you're soiling the legacy of not just you, but people like Klay. Because now when the fans look at, okay, no more Draymond to blame, the next person they're going to turn on is Klay for not shooting well. And I think all these things is affecting the old squad. I hear Steve Kerr saying we need Draymond, and all I take from that is the laziness to develop the talent we have. Steve Kerr, I remember 2 years ago, when was the injury? When life threw you lemonade. Steph was injured, Klay was hurt. That was when you gave all these kids the chances to develop. We developed Jordan Poole then. He came out with consistent run of games. If we're going to start having Draymond missing for 20, 25 games anyways, why don't we start moving on from him?
Well, and Charlie, you know what, Charlie, thank you. That actually, and I think that might be a conversation that starts to develop throughout the season, which is if you're going to be missing Draymond, and again, we don't know what the number is. There's 9 more games in December. But if this goes well into January and this team's having a hard time winning games and Klay doesn't find his shot, I'll just remind people, I don't necessarily think it's going to go this way. But if Draymond misses a bunch of games and this does somehow become a lost season, like a miss the playoffs type season, a lottery season, we've seen this before, and we're very bummed in the moment without realizing what can end up happening. And so Steph Curry's got more than 1 year left. And so the whole maximizing the rest of his career, if they financially reboot after this year, if you're able to, but who are you able to get with that money? If Klay and Chris are both off of the books, you can go shopping. You might be in the lottery. Well,
if Klay and Chris both come off the books, then you're underneath the second threshold if you don't replace either one of them.
Correct.
And, so this is basically the end of the big three. If the season goes down like this, you don't re-sign Klay, and you're going to reboot with Steph and Draymond, it feels to me like if this season does go down that way, then I don't even know if you can reboot, honestly. Maybe you trade Klay at the deadline. If you're going to rip the Band-Aid off,
I don't know.
You trade Chris Paul, you blow the whole thing up now as opposed to waiting for the summer.
Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it also, it allows for, so many of you have been wanting to see the young players. Well, now you're going to.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to. Draymond's not going to play for a while. Steve showed a willingness last night to sit Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson in key moments. And so, okay, Jonathan Kuminga, those of you who've been dying for this may not be the circumstances you were looking for, but here he comes.
Yeah.
So it's sink or swim, and does he become a better player down the road because of it? Maybe. A little bit more from Woj, and we'll keep going with you at 888-957-9570. We're not going to have Jared Greenberg. We're just talking to you, okay? Your reaction. Draymond has been suspended indefinitely. Here's some further information from Woj. Draymond, Warriors general manager Mike Dunleavy Jr., and Green's agent Rich Paul of Clutch Sports are all expected to meet tomorrow to start discussing a path of counseling to help Green to move forward. The league doesn't want to put a specific number on the suspension for now, but instead want to allow Green to take the time that he may need to deal with the challenges he's facing.
Wow.
There's something else that's going on here that I really want to point out, which is the tone that is being used in this decision.
It feels like an intervention.
Yes. As opposed to punitive.
Exactly. It's therapeutic.
Now we're hitting Draymond with the softball, and this is what you have to do.
You've got nothing else, Coach. You're right.
You got to go back and forth. We've all done this with people who are struggling. You go back and forth, sometimes day to day. I'm going to punish you, and the next day I'm going to put my arm around you and say, come on, what do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need? And so that's what the NBA is doing here, and I wonder how much the Warriors are involved in that, because it takes a little bit of the angry sting out of it when the NBA comes out and says, okay, instead, you're suspended for 12 games, we're mad at you. Instead, they're like, hey, man, what's going on with you?
Right.
Let's get you out of here, and let's figure this out so you can get back to maybe being a little bit more normal of a person and a player.
Right, because it hasn't always been at this level of agitation. I mean, he hasn't committed this many basketball assaults, and I know the word assault is triggering to many. I'm not saying that this is a felonious act and should be punished in the court of law, but in terms of basketball, we're seeing this more frequently than ever before. Why is that? Is it because he's frustrated with his diminishing skills? Is it because he doesn't have a sounding board, Bob Myers, any longer? Is it something off the court that's bleeding over into his basketball life that's making him feel a little bit more agitated than ever before? Whatever the root cause is, let's just take a timeout. Everybody stop what you're doing, and let's get you some help. And I think that is exactly right, Mark, in terms of the tone. You're suspended indefinitely. It could be 9 games. It could be 15. It could be 30 or 40. It depends on you, Draymond. It depends on what steps you can take. And if we as a league and as a franchise, if we can all agree, along with you and your therapist or whoever you're getting help with, if we can all sit down and agree that you've made the progress to where you can come back and be a legit positive member of our association.
They had to do this. You know what I mean? Like, there's the more understanding I sort of get from watching things unfold today. Last night became much less about basketball and Jusuf Nurkic. That's why, when we were having the conversation on the crossover about, like, that act is not worth 20 games. It's not worth 10 games. It's like, that's not what this is about.
Right.
The league is not going to allow these images, okay, in barely over a calendar year. You punch a teammate on TMZ. You stomp an opponent on the chest, right? Last night, you whack Nurkic across the face, and you have the situation.
You forgot the choke.
For the choke 4 weeks ago with Rudy Gobert.
Stomp, choke, and punch.
And by the way, you have a lot of those things were followed by an unapologetic podcast. And the league is like, we're not doing this.
Right.
This is not about the act. This is about the actor. And so here we are. And yeah, at a certain point, we'll get to a functional basketball conversation because the Warriors are going to be without one of their big three for a long time.